The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Creator, we thank you for leaders who care about issues impacting the most vulnerable in our communities. We ask that we work together with a good heart to drive out the issues that affect our communities the most: the homelessness, the food insecurity, the education, the environment. We ask that you bring our hearts together and our minds and our souls together to work on the issues that are going to have the most powerfully positive impact to our communities that we represent. I would like to read a poem by Joy Harjo. She is writer of the Muskogee Creek Nation. She's named the 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States. To pray, you open your whole self, to the sky, to the earth, to the sun, and to the moon, to the one whole voice that is you. And know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments, steadily growing and in languages that aren't always sound, but other circles of motion. Like the eagle this Tuesday morning over the Mississippi River, circling the blue sky in wind, sweep our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born and will die soon within a true circle of motion, like the eagle rounding out the morning inside of us. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. Thank you, members. Let's go forward with a good heart.
The chaplain for today is Representative Mary Kunesh Padin, District 41B, New Brighton, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag The clerk will take the roll.
Acom.
Acom, Minnetonka, present.
Acom, Minnetonka, present. Albright.
Albright, Spring Lake Township, present.
Did you get that? Spring Lake Township. Albright, Spring Lake Township, present. Anderson.
Anderson, Barsness Township, present.
Anderson, Barsness Township, present. Backer.
Backer, St. Paul, present.
Backer, St. Paul, present. Bonner.
Bonner, Maple Grove, present.
Bonner, Maple Grove, present. Barr.
Barr, East Bethel, present.
Barr, East Bethel, present. Baker.
Baker, Wilmer, present.
Baker, Wilmer, present. Becker, Finn.
Becker, Finn, Roseville, present.
Becker, Finn, Roseville, present. Bennett.
Bennett, Albert Lee, present.
Bennett, Albert Lee, present. Bernardi.
Bernardi, New Brighton, present.
Bernardi, New Brighton, present. Bierman. Bierman. Bow.
Bo, Chanhassen, present.
Bow, Chanhassen, present. Brand.
Brand, St. Peter, present.
Brand, St. Peter, present. Cantrell.
Cantrell, Savage, present.
Cantrell, Savage, present. Carlson A.
Carlson A, Bloomington, present.
Carlson A, Bloomington, present. Carlson L.
Carlson L, Crystal, present.
Carlson L, Crystal, present. Christensen.
Christensen, Stillwater, present.
Christensen, Stillwater, present. Claflin.
Claflin, South St. Paul, present.
Claflin, South St. Paul, present. Considine.
Considine, Mankato, present.
Considine, Mankato, present. Daniels.
Daniels, Faribault, present.
Daniels, Faribault, present. Doubt. Doubt. Davids.
Doubt, St. Paul, present.
Doubt, St. Paul, present. Davids.
David, Sumner Township, present.
David, Sumner Township, present. Davney.
Dabney, St. Paul, present.
Davney, St. Paul, present. Dean.
Dean, Dean, St. Paul, present.
Dean, St. Paul, present. Damath.
Damath, Cold Spring, present.
Damath, Cold Spring, present. Detmer. Detmer, St. Paul, present. Drazkowski.
Dristkowski, Winona, present.
Drazkowski, Winona, present. Eklund.
Eklund, International Falls, present.
Eklund, International Falls, present. Edelson.
Edelson, Edina, present.
Edelson, Edina, present. Elkins.
Elkins, Bloomington, present.
Elkins, Bloomington, present. Erickson.
Erickson, Princeton Township, present.
Erickson, Princeton Township, present. Fabian. Fabian. Fisher.
Fisher, St. Paul, present.
Fisher, St. Paul, present. Franzen. Franzen.
Branson, Alexandria, present.
Franzen, Alexandria, present. Freiberg.
Freiberg, Robbinsdale, present.
Freiberg, Robbinsdale, present. Garofalo. Garofalo. Gomez.
Gomez, Minneapolis, present.
Gomez, Minneapolis, present. Green.
Green, Boston, present.
Green, Foston, present. Grossel.
Grossel, Clearbrook, present.
Grossel, Clearbrook, present. Grunhagen.
Gruenhagen, Glencoe, present.
Grunhagen, Glencoe, present. Gunther.
Gunther, Fairmont, present.
Gunther, Fairmount, present. Haley.
Haley, St. Paul, present.
Haley, St. Paul, present. Halverson.
Halverson, St. Paul, present.
Halverson, St. Paul, present. Hamilton.
Hamilton, Mountain Lake, present.
Hamilton, Mountain Lake, present. Hanson.
Hampton, Harmony, present.
Hanson, Harmony, present. Hassan. Hassan. Hausman. Excused. Heinrich.
Heinrich Noka, present.
Heinrich Anoka, present. Heinzman.
Heinzman, Nisswa, present.
Heinzman, Nisswa, present. Her.
Her, St. Paul, present.
Her, St. Paul, present. Hertos.
Hertos and Greenfield, present.
Hertos, Greenfield, present. Hornstein.
Hornstein, Minneapolis, present.
Hornstein, Minneapolis, present. Howard.
Howard, Litchfield, present.
Howard, Richfield, present. Hewitt.
Hewitt, Rosemount, present.
Hewitt, Rosemont, present. Johnson.
Johnson, Isani Township, present.
Johnson, Isani Township, present. Jordan.
Jordan, Minneapolis, present.
Jordan, Minneapolis, present. Jurgens.
Jurgens, Cottage Grove, present.
Jurgens, Cottage Grove, present. Keel. Keel. Cleveland.
Cleveland, St. Paul, present.
Cleveland, St. Paul, present. Cagle.
Cagle, Spring Lake Park, present.
Cagle, Spring Lake Park, present. Katiza-Watun.
Katiza-Watun, Eden Prairie, present.
Katiza-Watun, Eden Prairie, present. Kosnick.
Cosmic Lakeville, present.
Kosnick, Lakeville, present. Creshaw.
Grisha, Little Falls, present.
Creshaw, Little Falls, present. Kunish, Podine.
Kunish-Podine, New Brighton, present.
Kunish-Podine, New Brighton, present. Lehman.
Lehman, St. Paul, present.
Lehman, St. Paul, present. Lee.
Lee, Minneapolis, present.
Lee, Minneapolis, present. Lesh.
Lesh, St. Paul, present.
Lesh, St. Paul, present. Liebling.
Liebling, Rochester, present.
Liebling, Rochester, present. Lean.
Lean, Moorhead, present.
Lean, Moorhead, present. Lily.
Lily, North St. Paul, present.
Lily, North St. Paul, present. Lippert.
Lippert, Northfield, present.
Lippert, Northfield, present. Lislegard.
Lislegard, St. Paul, present.
Lislegard, St. Paul, present. Long.
Long, Minneapolis, present.
Long, Minneapolis, present. Lucero.
Lucero, Egan, present.
Lucero, Egan, present. Lewick.
Lewick, Aiken, present.
Lewick, Aiken, present. Mahoney.
Mahoney, St. Paul, present.
Mahoney, St. Paul, present. Mann.
Man, Burnsville, present.
Mann, Burnsville, present. Mariani.
Mariani, St. Paul, present.
Mariani, St. Paul, present. Marquardt. Marquardt. Mason. Mason. McDonald. McDonald. Mecklin.
Mecklin, Becker Township, present.
Mecklin, Becker Township, present. Miller.
Miller, Princeburg, present.
Miller, Princeburg, present. Moeller.
Moeller, Shoreview, present.
Moeller, Shoreview, present. Moran.
Moran, St. Paul, present.
Moran, St. Paul, present. Morrison.
Morrison, Deep Haven, present.
Morrison, Deep Haven, present. Munson.
Munson, Lincoln Township, present.
Munson, Lincoln Township, present. Murphy.
Murphy, Hermantown, present.
Murphy, Hermantown, present. Nash.
Nash, Hollywood Township, present.
Nash, Hollywood Township, present. Nelson M.
Nelson M., Brooklyn Park, present.
Nelson M., Brooklyn Park, present. Nelson N.
Nelson N., Clover Township, present.
Nelson N., Clover Township, present. New. New, St. Paul, present. Nor.
Nor, Minneapolis, present.
Nor, Minneapolis, present. Nornis.
Nornis, Fergus Falls, present.
Nornis, Fergus Falls, present. Novotny.
Novotny, Elk River, present.
Novotny, Elk River, present. O'Driscoll.
O'Driscoll, Sartell, present.
O'Driscoll, Sartell, present. Olson.
Olson, St. Paul, present.
Olson, St. Paul, present. O'Neill.
O'Neill, Maple Lake, present.
O'Neill, Maple Lake, present. Pulowski.
Pulowski, Winona, present.
Pulowski, Winona, present. Purcell.
Purcell, Cass Lake, present.
Purcell, Cass Lake, present. Petersburg.
Petersburg, Waseca, present.
Petersburg, Waseca, present. Pearson.
Pearson, Rochester, present.
Pearson, Rochester, present. Pinto.
Pinto, St. Paul, present.
Pinto, St. Paul, present. Poppy.
Poppy, Austin, present.
Poppy, Austin, present. Poston.
Poston, Lakeshore, present.
Poston, Lakeshore, present. Pryor.
Pryor, Duluth, present.
Pryor, Duluth, present. Quam.
Guam, Byron, present.
Quam, Byron, present. Richardson.
Richardson, Mendota Heights, present.
Richardson, Mendota Heights, present. Robbins.
Robbins, Maple Grove, present.
Robbins, Maple Grove, present. Runbeck.
Runback, Lino Lake, present.
Runbeck, Lino Lakes, present. Sandell. Sandell. Sandsted.
Sandsted, Hibbing, present.
Sandsted, Hibbing, present. Sauk.
Sauk, Rochester, present.
Sauk, Rochester, present. Schumacher.
Schumacher, Laverne, present.
Schumacher, Laverne, present. Schultz.
Schultz, Duluth, present.
Schultz, Duluth, present. Scott.
Scott Andover, present.
Scott, Andover, present. Stevenson.
Stevenson, Brooklyn Park, present.
Stevenson, Brooklyn Park, present. Sundin.
Sundin, Corona Township, present.
Sundin, Corona Township, present. Swazinski.
Swazinski, Nordland Township, present.
Swazinski, Norland Township, present. Tabke.
Tabke, Shakopee, present.
Tabke, Shakopee, present. Tice.
Tice, St. Cloud, present.
Tice, St. Cloud, present. Torkelson.
Torkelson, Hanska, present.
Torkelson, Hanska, present. Erdahl.
Erdahl, Litchfield, present.
Erdahl, Litchfield, present. Vang.
Vang, Brooklyn Center, present.
Vang, Brooklyn Center, present. Vogel.
Vogel, Elko Newmarket, present.
Vogel, Elko Newmarket, present. Wagenius.
Wagenius, Solom Township, present.
Wagenius, Solon Township, present. Waslewick.
Wandsworth, White Bear Township, present.
Waslewick, White Bear Township, present. West.
West, Blaine, present.
West, Blaine, present. Winkler. Winkler, St. Paul, present. Walgamot.
Walgamot, St. Cloud, present.
Walgamot, St. Paul, or St. Cloud, present. Zhang Jie.
Xiong J, Mendota Heights, present.
Zhang Jie, Mendota Heights, present. Zhang Ti.
Zhang T, Maplewood, present.
Zhang Ti, Maplewood, present. Joachim.
Joachim Hopkins, present.
Joachim Hopkins, present. Speaker Hartman. Speaker Hartman, St. Paul, present. Bierman.
Bierman, Apple Valley, present.
Bierman, Apple Valley, present. Fabian.
Fabian, Roseau, present.
Fabian, Roseau, present. Garofalo. Garofalo. Hassan. Hassan.
Minneapolis, present.
Hassan, Minneapolis, present. Keel.
Keel, Hammond Township, present.
Keel, Hammond Township, present. Markwart.
Markwart, Glendon, present.
Markwart, Glendon, present. Mason.
Mason, St. Paul, present.
Mason, St. Paul, present. McDonald.
McDonald, Delano, present.
McDonald, Delano, present. Sandell.
Sandell, Woodbury, present.
Sandell, Woodbury, present.
A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 5th Special Session 2020, first day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, October 12th, 2020.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File number 1.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 42.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading, Senate File number 2.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 43 through 45.
First reading, House files 43 through 45. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions are adopted. Announcements. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, the Rules Committee will meet immediately following session today.
Further announcements. Do we want to revert to the quorum call? Okay.
Okay.
Any other announcements? Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn until 12 noon Wednesday, October 14th, 2020.
Representative Winkler moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 noon Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. Representative Winkler.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Winkler moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 12 noon Wednesday, October 14th, 2020.